The time continues to kick down. It is just a week and a half away from the 2025 NFL Draft from Green Bay, Wisconsin, everybody's favorite little city. I'm not going anywhere near there, and I don't think this is going to go anywhere as well as what people think it's going to, but hey, it's the NFL Draft, and that's all that matters. Welcome into the Bear Report podcast. I'm Steven Johnson. He is Zach Pearson. And Zach, a bit of news, a little exciting news out of the gate. The Bears continuing to lock up some players, what they're considering some cornerstones here along these 3-year deals that just continue to kind of domino effect as the offseason has gone along, with Kyler Gordon now under contract for at least the next 3 years as a top highest paid nickel corner, on top of all the planning for the NFL draft. It just seems like we're getting more news than we probably usually do this time of year.
Yeah, first player selected by Ryan Poles in the Bears era gets locked up through 2028. Not really surprising. I was a little, I thought maybe it'd drag on to training camp, but yeah, he spoke before like the free agency stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not pressed for time. Doesn't really, matter to me." And then boom, here we are, Sunday night. Rory gets the green jacket, and then about 30 minutes later, you get the notification that Adam Schefter says Kyler Gordon has earned a 3-year contract extension. So, yeah, it makes sense to me. It's not surprising. I thought, he probably was going to get an extension. With the cornerback market playing out, how it did with Derek Stingley getting a deal, a couple other guys. Yeah, highest paid slot corner, which is kind of interesting because if you look at Dennis Allen, like historically over the last couple of years, not a lot of slot or nickel packages. It's just straight up man to man. He wants to get there with his base defense. But if you listen to Dennis Allen talk back in January, February, and he name dropped Kyler Gordon as a player he's excited to work with, a guy he thinks, he's got a special plan to utilize him. So he's got to trust what the Bears are doing, but I think it says a lot that he got extended without even playing a down for this new era, and it shows how confident Ryan Poles is and how confident Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen are.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think physicality isn't necessarily a word that you would use to describe Kyler Gordon either. And for as much as Dennis Allen wants to see his secondary players get a little bit more involved, pressing at the line of scrimmage and being up in the face of opposing ball catchers, it was kind of surprising. I'll be honest. I know that there were a lot of people saying, Kyler's the next one in line. He's going to get paid. They're going to lock him up. And like you mentioned, with the way that the free agent market was kind of treating the position overall, it's that borderline of, okay, is this a steal? Is it fair value? What exactly does this fall under? And, it's been an interesting tenure so far for Kyler Gordon, but in a good way. Rookie year, not all too much to write home about by any stretch of the imagination. And then this past season, becoming more of that lockdown corner there in the nickel. And again, in terms of what his grades have been against coverage, it's been up there with some of the best in the game. And so now the question in my mind is, do they try and test the waters maybe and see what he does on the outside and see how things progress from there? Giving somebody $40 million that specializes in specific formations seems a little odd to me, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of picture them using him, as kind of a weapon in that nickel defense. I think they're going to play a lot more. Like I said, I mean, Dennis Allen doesn't really play a lot of nickel defense, or historically hasn't. I'm sure the numbers probably have upticked, time to time, but he likes that man coverage. He likes the physicality. Gordon, 5 interceptions in his career. He had the 3, 2022. He had 2 the following year. Didn't have any last year. Has been kind of banged up. I think that's kind of the issue with him, especially is he going to be able to stay healthy all the time? But I think they're going to use him, as kind of a weapon in that slot. Are they going to bring him off the edge and blitz? Kind of man him up with some of these slot receivers? Because look at the NFL now, man, it's crazy. Like all the slot receivers are all so damn good. and they're moving guys everywhere. You got bigger guys playing in the slot now. And a lot of the defenses are, 70, 80% that nickel defense. So, yeah, I mean, I could see why they did it. I think the biggest question now is Tyreek Stevenson. Like, if you want to test Kyler Gordon the outside a little bit, if Stevenson doesn't fit your mold, I don't know, do you bring someone else in? I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to kind of see in the offseason, but I would probably say Gordon stays at nickel. Maybe we see a little outside stuff depending on some matchups. But now, you got Jalen Johnson, who is going to travel with the number one, which is good. And then you got Kyler Gordon as kind of another weapon. And I think the biggest questions left are, what does Jaquan Brisker have, in terms of injury? With the concussion, will he be back 100%? What can Kevin Byard get? If Kevin Byard could get you the season like he gave you last year, you'll definitely live with that. Like, it was pretty solid last year for a veteran.
Right.
What does Tyreek Stevenson give you, and can he get out of this kind of funk that he was in last season? But yeah, the Bears are definitely loading up in that secondary and spending the money on the homegrown players, and it's kind of nice, to see a player like Kyler Gordon essentially get rewarded, for what he's done so far, and the belief.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a rarity that the first overall pick from a GM in Bears land getting that second contract. You just don't see it very often. So it is great to see. And like I said, from his rookie season that had plenty of bumps in the road to this, most recent season, he's 26 years old, so he still has some youth to him. But just kind of running down what he did in 2024, so people are aware: 75 tackles. That was a career high for him. 4 tackles for loss, 5 pass breakups, half a sack, a forced fumble, 3 fumble recoveries, and 2 quarterback hits in 15 games. So like you mentioned, the injury bug has kind of been his biggest concern there, where it seems like every year he's missing a couple games here and there because of lingering injuries. And you have to wonder, is this going to be, what you deal with Kyler Gordon as that guy? Because again, durability, physicality, I have concerns there. I think anybody would have concerns there with the way that it goes. But, beyond that, and just kind of walking through that entire secondary, talking about Stevenson, and even talking about the safeties with Brisker and with Byard, it kind of leans into, okay, do they add to the secondary to kind of, fill these gaps, even though they are spending so much money, that it does make sense for them to kind of just keep filling the pot with that talent, just in case something does go awry, whether it is another Gordon injury, whether it is Stevenson not getting back on track. And again, Byard with his contract and getting older, maybe that's something there. So I think that, this was a good step in the right direction for that secondary, but at the same time, I don't think they're done by any means when it comes to maintaining that position and what Dennis Allen probably wants to get, not even out of the defensive line, which we all know needs plenty more work added to it, whether it is defensive tackle or edge rusher, and even a third linebacker on top of that. So, we talk about, best player available. Now I'm sitting here talking to myself and I'm like, they could use this, they could use that, they could use this.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a position to go, to address other needs or to, upgrade other positions, build some depth. I don't think they'd take a corner at number 10. I mean, I think the only guy would probably be Will Johnson out of Michigan. That would be, and still be a little bit of a surprise to me. It wouldn't be the worst pick. I think there's other players that I would probably be more disappointed in. I could see why they'd go that route, though. But they have put themselves in a position where, they could draft another corner later on. And a lot of these guys, like, you look at Josh Blackwell, who just signed an extension. He was a guy undrafted, was with Philadelphia, came with Chicago, played a little DB, got into a couple games, but he made an impact on special teams. Jalen Jones, undrafted out of Ole Miss. He's somewhere else now. I believe he went to Arizona. He's another guy that, a backup defensive back that played a role on special teams. So, just because they take a defensive back for depth later on doesn't mean that they can't play a role on special teams, especially. Those are kind of the guys you're looking at, along with, some backup linebackers. Jack Sanborn was a big special teams guy as well. So, Yeah, I mean, with Gordon, well deserved. We'll have to see, moving forward. He said today, he talked to the media that he's still got a lot to prove and he feels like he's not done and he wants to be the top nickel in the league. But if he could carry that confidence and the confidence that Jalen Johnson has, where he believes he's the top corner in the league. I mean, you look at what Dennis Allen had last year. He had two guys, Marshawn Lattimore, and I'm blank on the next name, two guys that were rated, top five. Well, Lattimore was like number 3 in man coverage. And the other, I'm blank on the name, but the other player was like number 7 or 8. And I'm actually going to see if I can find it. But yeah, with what Dennis Allen wants to do, I'm excited because I think this defense is going to have a lot of opportunity and a lot of different, like, in a way, looks, not only up front with the defensive line, but how they handle their secondary. I'm guessing we'll see some looks with Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard, and we'll see some things with the defensive backs as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be kind of interesting to kind of pay attention to moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that again, there's plenty of opportunity for them to improve. Was it a Debo? Is that who you're thinking of?
Yeah, it probably was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually
Paulson
wrote on it, and
Adebo.
I'm like blanking now on it, but yeah,
Yeah,
I believe it was a Debo.
yeah. So I mean, I mean, it feels like a secondary factory down there. Maybe it was Dennis Allen just doing wonders. So I'll be more than happy to welcome that to Chicago anytime
They
soon.
they had I mean, Dennis Allen outside of last year, like last year, with the whole head coaching thing, I mean, he wasn't like, their defense wasn't ranked very good. They were still a good defense, but prior to
Mhm.
that, man, like he had some really good defenses down
Yeah,
there. Like they were pretty damn good. And yeah, they had a couple studs up front, and the Bears have said, they want to add more guys up front. The pass rush starts up front. But like here, I mean, yeah, it was a debut. But like looking at it, yeah. So let's see, from 2015 to 2021, he was with New Orleans. Since 2018, his defense has finished in the top 10 in 4 of 7 seasons on third downs. They've also finished worse than 14th in total yards just one time. So they're not only
I'll
good
take
on
that.
third down, yeah, they're good in not allowing a lot of yards. And I encourage anyone. I did this. I went back and watched a few games. Go look when Dennis Allen and those Saints played Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and you don't
Oh,
play man to man
torture for
against.
him.
Yeah, you don't play man to man against Tom Brady. You don't play man to man against Peyton Manning. Those are guys that just notoriously burn you. And he came in and he straight up played man to man against Tom Brady. And I would love to hear, I'm sure it's out there. I would love to hear what Tom Brady would have to say about that. I'm sure he'd give Allen a lot of props because, I mean, he just made life very difficult on those Buccaneers offenses who, I mean, who Mike Evans, Godwin, they had some good wide receivers, good tight ends, and a couple good backs, and the Saints defense really, for the most part, held their own. I mean, I think of that playoff game. What was it, the wild card game in New Orleans? I know the Buccaneers won, but it was Drew Brees. Drew Brees couldn't throw the ball more than 20 yards. That's pretty much
No.
what lost them the game. So yeah, Dennis Allen, man, I think he's going to get the most out of this. I think, it makes a lot of sense for them to retain Kyler Gordon and keep him here to 2028.
Let's hope for the best out of Kyler Gordon in his second contract. That's for sure. You mentioned Will Johnson potentially being one option for the Bears that would be completely out of left field. But let's switch to draft coverage here. As the Bears picking 10th overall in the first round, plenty of different ways they can go about it. And then the second round at picks 39 and 41. A lot of the talk today being about how it's going to be difficult for anybody in the top 10 to trade down. And I think we've had these conversations a couple times, but it's starting to get a little bit more solidified, despite there being some news that could potentially shake up the top 10, specifically the team sitting right in front of the Bears with the New Orleans Saints. We've talked about them enough. Let's talk about them some more with Derek Carr potentially not playing in the 2025 season. And so all of a sudden, they're looking at the Saints QB1 is potentially being Spencer Rattler, second-year quarterback out of South Carolina, Oklahoma, just the
Oklahoma,
full
yeah.
transfer guy.
He got benched for
And
Caleb Williams.
yeah, and it's a unique situation, as now a lot of folks are saying QB2 is not going to make it past pick number 9. And a lot of folks expecting that to be Shedeur Sanders out of
Yeah.
Colorado as the guy there. And I have to wonder, now that that has shifted with the way that the rest of the, we'll call it the top 3 or 4, seems to kind of be solidifying itself, where you have Cam Ward from Miami going to Tennessee at the number 1 overall, Travis Hunter going to Cleveland, and then Abdul Carter going to the Giants, and then Will Campbell, maybe Mason Graham going to the Patriots. It seems like you're hearing those same 4 or 5 names towards the top of the list, and then it just gets jumbled up. And Albert Breer talking today, saying that it's kind of the same level of quality of player that you're going to get from 5 up to 20, and that's really going to chip into what exactly the trade return is going to be. But do you think this kind of shakes things up a little bit more, that there's now a serious quarterback needy team, that maybe teams a little bit further down the road, we'll call the Steelers out, for example, that they might need to hop in front of the Bears? And I feel like it almost kind of screws the Bears to an extent, that they're going to have to deal with people fighting to get in front of them, and not necessarily give them a really good option to trade back themselves, because the Saints are sitting there at 9.
Yeah, I think there's this narrative that, okay, if Ashton Genty's not there, Will Campbell's not there, the Bears should just trade back, which is fine, but it takes 2 to tango. Like, you have to have a trade partner. It's not just, yep, we're going to give our pick at 10. We want to go to 17. That's just not how it works,
Right.
And I guess the point of that tweet that we're referencing is that a lot of these teams that want to trade back for a reason. If you're in the top 10 and, you're sitting there, you're the Carolina Panthers and you don't think you're going to get a franchise player, or the Jacksonville Jaguars, you don't think you're going to get a franchise player, why not trade back? The Chicago Bears. I think the Bears are in a really tough spot at number 10, where I think it's becoming more and more likely Genty won't be there. Will Campbell won't be there, and Mason Graham won't be there. And I think those are the 3 guys that are the highest on their board right now. So you'd want to trade back. Maybe you trade back and try to get a Marion Hampton or something like that. But like, you have to find a trade partner, and who's going to come up for who? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
No one's trading. I'd be shocked if anyone traded up to draft Jackson Dart at number 10. I mean, Shedeur, like, what happens there? And I think the other interesting element that you referenced was, yeah, the New Orleans Saints now need a quarterback. But do they, in my opinion, if I'm the Saints, I'm sticking at 9. I'm passing on the quarterbacks in this draft, and I'm trying to manifest Arch Manning or whoever's number 1 next year at quarterback. I don't think, like, you can put all your eggs in the basket of any of these rookie quarterbacks. Like, I think Cam Ward's obviously the best of them, but I don't think it's a, slam dunk like we saw last year with the 3. But for the Bears, I mean, I don't know, man. It's tough. Like, it's going to be tough to trade back and get an actual package. It's going to be worth it just because of the talent. Like we've said, Adam Schefter said it. A lot of people have said it. Like, you could get a guy at 10 that has value at 30. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Right.
It's just the talent in this draft is just not what it used to be, or has been in the years past. So yeah, I think best case scenario for the Bears is someone does take Shedeur in the top 9. That maybe pushes back a player for the Bears. But I'd be shocked if Will. I think Cam Ward is going to go 1. I think the combination of Carter, Travis Hunter will go, in the top 4. What do the Giants do? Do the Giants take Shedeur? Like, they're meeting with them tomorrow in Colorado. I don't know. I don't think Will Campbell makes it past 4 if a quarterback's not taken. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think if No one takes a quarterback to top 4. Will Campbell obviously will not. I think he's going to go number 4, number 3. And then after that, I think it just gets interesting. Like, do the Raiders? I mean, the Raiders are a wild card. Do they go Genty? Like, a lot of question marks. Does Jacksonville, do the Jets want another left tackle or running back? I don't know, man. I just don't think it sets up great for the Bears either way. Like, it's a weird draft to be number 10 in.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with you on that. And really, I look at the Raiders as kind of the trade up spot there at number 6. If there is a team in the top 10 that's going to get the value, they're kind of sitting the in the best possible spot right here, because clearly the Patriots aren't going to go after a quarterback. The Jaguars aren't going to go after a quarterback. Neither are probably going to go after a running back. I don't think that Ashton Genty would
Yeah,
go
I'd
to
be
4 to the
shocked.
Patriots and supplant Ramondre Stevenson. But looking at the rest of the teams there in the top 10, that Genty keeps getting positioned there to the Raiders. The Jets, they have Breece Hall. The Panthers just continue to spend at running back, and plus they have Chuba Hubbard, who's coming off a very good season for them. They don't necessarily need someone there either, and so they could potentially move from 6 to 9, maybe even a little bit further down. I doubt it. I doubt they'd go behind the Bears just because of Genty.
Yeah.
But there is almost a solidification of like either this player or that player. There's really not a third option for some of these teams, the way that it's kind of being laid out for, obviously they could go this direction. It makes sense. They need this position figured out, but they'd be in the same position. They'd be fine if they go with, X. And really it's been
Yeah.
the defensive lineman or the offensive lineman for a lot of these teams, sitting here at 4, 5, 7, and 8, where it's pretty clear cut. And then you're sitting with the Bears, which, honestly, past New York, whether it's this wild card of, do they go defensive line? Do they go quarterback? Like you mentioned, sitting with Shedeur Sanders tomorrow in New York, and, hey, he's getting his jersey retired. So he's a great quarterback, but, the Bears are kind of sitting here at 10 as the one team where you can kind of have a little bit more flexibility to say you could see them take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different positions,
Oh yeah.
depending on how the board falls, which you can't say really about any of the other teams in front of them, which is a very unique situation because usually it's the flip side of that, where there's more of a like, hey, we have a lot of holes to fill. We just need to take the best player available within these positions. And right now, the Bears, despite having that luxury, it just happens that the board is falling the wrong way for them to take best advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing. Like you said, it can be a good spot to be in because you could take a left tackle, you can take, a running back, you could probably take a wide receiver, you could take a defensive tackle, you could take a defensive, pass rusher, you could take the linebacker. So it's a good spot in that. It's just if none of the top 3 guys I mentioned fall, you're kind of taking a risk on a lot of the other guys. Like, Membu out of Missouri, like that's kind of a feels like a project pick to me in a way. I mean, not like a huge risk. And I think you could obviously make the argument every pick is a risk. It's a draft, but like,
Yeah.
Michael Williams, James Pierce Jr., we're going to know what the Bears value. If Campbell, Genty, let's say Mason Graham's gone, let's say even like Tyler Warren's gone, or let's say Tyler Warren's there. Like the Bears have a decision to make, and we're gonna know what they value, especially at number 10.
And Tyler Warren, there, it's there is more smoke from that name
Yeah.
each and every day
Doesn't it
connected
feel
to the
weird though?
Bears.
Like to be
It
like taking
does.
a tight end at number 10?
Yeah. And I get that the Penn State offense ran through Tyler Warren, and he is that guy who can take the ball downfield. He's not necessarily going to get you the separation, but he's going to run dudes over. He is a
yeah.
big physical tight end, 6'5", 256 pounds. Like that's a mountain of a dude that you got to bring down the middle of the field. But he has that go up and get it attitude with the ball as well, even though he doesn't get that separation. And I've tried talking myself into it over the last couple of weeks. I'm still
Yeah.
not there yet. There's something about it, but
I'm the
I
same way,
keep
man.
I keep trying to like connect the dots with Ben Johnson jettisoning TJ Hawkinson to Minnesota and going and getting Sam Laporta out of the draft, getting his guy that he knows can block, can get down the field, can play in the backfield, can do everything. Is this a similar situation where, yeah, Cole Kmet is the hometown kid and there's a feel good story there, but he doesn't necessarily fit what Ben Johnson wants. And he knows he has a potential all pro Hall of Fame option in Tyler Warren that has
Yeah.
shown this ability to be so flexible and excel at everything that he's done on the field. That's where I keep talking to myself, and I'm like, does it make sense? I guess it kind of does make sense. And
Yeah,
every
but
day it's like a little bit more up the ladder.
I don't think they'd move on from Cole Kmet if they drafted Tyler Warren.
No, I don't
No.
think so either. Because again, Ben Johnson and doing the 12 formation,
Yeah.
that is his
Most
bread
in the
and butter.
NFL.
You're going to see
Yeah.
a lot of 2 tight end sets in this offense for the Bears this year.
Yeah. And I do think they're going to take a tight end. I just don't know if they'll take. I don't know. I'm starting to talk myself into it more and more. I just keep going back to it. It's lame, but I keep going back to it. It feels too high to take a tight end number 10. Like it just does. But I mean, he can line up multiple places. We've seen him line up in the slot at times. It kind of feels like everyone's buying into the Brock Bowers like recency bias.
Yeah.
Bowers was a much more polished prospect coming out. Nothing against Warren. I mean, Bowers was just insane. So yeah, I don't know, man.
And it's
gonna
also
be
weird. Like Warren had 200 rushing yards last year.
Yes,
Like
that's
a
what I'm
tight
saying.
end had 200 rushing yards.
Yeah,
What
he
is
can
going
line
on
up.
with that?
He can line up anywhere. So I mean, he does feel like him and Genty feel like the Ben Johnson picks. Like, give me a new toy for my offense.
Yeah.
James Pierce Jr., Michael Williams, Mason Graham feels like the Dennis Allen. And then if you take Will Campbell or Membu or another offensive, Calvin Banks or any of the other offensive tackles, that's like a Ryan Poles type pick. But I think there's more smoke now. Not a lot of smoke, but they had Amarian Hampton on a top 30 visit. You saw, I forget, I don't know if it was Bucky Brooks or Lewis. Someone had Amarian Hampton going to the Bears at 10, which I thought was crazy. I'll put all my bias aside as a North Carolina fan. I don't think Amarian Hampton is the 10th best player in this draft. I don't think he's the player that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense, but I don't think he's a player that you would take at number 10 either. But I could totally see the Bears taking him at number 10 if the board falls apart where it's Graham's gone, Campbell's gone, Genty's gone, Will Campbell's gone. They think they could get an offensive lineman or a pass rusher. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't want it to happen, but I could see. I don't think we rule it out 100%. I don't agree with it. Even being a North Carolina fan, I don't agree with it. But he's going to be gone before the second round too. But at the same time, Caleb Johnson's a good fit. He's on a top 30 visit. They're talking about Travion Henderson going first round too, which it's kind of wild to me. But it's going to be interesting what the Bears are going to do, at the number 10, and we'll talk about next week, the preview show. But I think kind of wrap things up, we should probably go through a couple of these top 30 visits because it's been a little quiet on the Bears end. It's anywhere from 13 to 14 we counted top 30 visits that have been kind of confirmed, quote unquote confirmed.
I'm a little surprised that it's that low.
Yeah.
But
okay.
At the same time, to that point, we were kind of talking a little bit earlier too, is that there's certain teams that just aren't using the top 30 visits because they don't want it leaked that they're looking at certain players. And in today's day and age, that makes a lot of sense because things are reported so quickly. But to that same extent, it's a very interesting list of who they've brought in for top 30s.
Is there any names that surprise you? Because I look at it I'm not surprised. I mean, I look at you could probably cross Isaiah Bond off.
Yeah.
What was going on with him. That's you could cross him off. Kyle Williams out of Washington State. I know you profiled him today. That's not really surprising to me. I
No.
think like maybe someone like let's see, kind of going through it. Who was the guy? I was a little surprised at man, what is his name? I guess not. Omar Norman Lott, the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
He's a day 3 type of pick. And you look at Ryan Poles and just, the Zach Pickens pick, it just wasn't very good. So far. That was kind of a name that surprised me because I do think if you go defensive tackle, you probably want to go the first day or two with that. The Shamar Stewart and Amarian Hampton visited the same day. That was Monday and they end on Wednesday. So, but a lot of running backs on this list: Caleb Johnson, as we mentioned, Hampton, Genty, Brashard Smith out of SMU. That's all. Yeah, and a lot of wide receivers. I like the kid out of Arizona, the offensive lineman Jonah Sanavina. I can't pronounce that name. Sorry.
All good. It's better than
He's
what
a
I would have
big
done.
dude. He's a big man, and that's a very interesting pick on like let's say day 2. So yeah, nothing that honestly surprised me. I'm actually more surprised that there's less of the visits.
Yeah, that there's less of the visits, but even on top of that, that I'm a little perplexed by because we had spent some time talking about what the secondary was looking like. There's no secondary players on this list. Like there's no
Yeah,
corner,
good
there's no
call. Yeah,
safeties. I mean, and
that we know
really,
of. That we know of.
yeah, that we know of. But at the same time, even past Nick Martin, the linebacker out of Oklahoma State, there's really not a lot going there at linebacker either. And so I think just for the fact that Amarian Hampton, Genty, and Caleb Johnson are on this list, it's pretty apparent the Bears are kind of honing in on running back, whether it is the first round or the second round, because like you mentioned, you even have guys like Travian Henderson. I'm seeing mocks second round, him going to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas
There was
Cowboys
a
are in desperate need
there
of
was a
a
mock
running
that
back.
had him going number 10 to the Bears.
Oh, that is
That's crazy,
no.
man. I'm confident in saying that he'll not go number 10 to the Bears, but I think one of Caleb Johnson, Ashton Genty, or Marion Hampton will be a Bear. I think
Yeah.
one of the 3 will be a Bear. I think it's kind of feels that way.
Yeah, and there's another name in there, not even just talking about Travian Henderson, who it's odd. At the start of the offseason, you had, Quinshawn Judkins ahead
Yeah.
of Travian Henderson, and now that script is completely flipped
Yeah.
with that home run ability that Travian Henderson brings to the field that everybody saw in the college football playoff with Ohio State. But again, another name there that, in case there is a run on running backs, which you don't see very often these days because it's not considered a premium position anymore. I don't fully buy into that talk. I think that there's still a lot to be said. You can ask the Eagles about
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley and how they feel about signing him to a long-term deal and how close the Bears were to doing the exact same
Josh
thing. But
Jacobs
I digress.
Josh Jacobs with the Packers was a great free agent signing.
Yep.
I mean,
I mean,
running backs is going to play a role. I mean, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, like they're going to
and
play a role in this offense.
And Amarian Hampton kind of screams Jahmyr Gibbsy pick to me because the Lions got roasted for
Oh yeah,
taking Jahmyr Gibbs when they
yeah.
did in the first round a few years back because everyone's like they're insane. What are they doing? They just gave David Montgomery a whole bunch of money and now they're creating this headache of a backfield. And to their credit, they knew what they were doing, and it looks pretty darn good in Detroit. So to that extent, like, would I be shocked if they went that direction?
See, I'm
Not
telling you,
entirely.
I wouldn't
Will I
either,
be a
man.
little disappointed? Yeah.
Yeah, 10, it's a little high for him, but like, I don't, I, it's a pick that probably gets booed. It's a pick that is going to have a lot of people saying no, 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 like bad. It's going to get a bad draft grade.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there will be people saying, look, here's why it makes sense. Here's why. And the Bears will have the reasons. I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't be shocked. Like you said, I just wouldn't be shocked. But we'll have to see, man. It's gonna be an interesting next week. This is the time right now where GMs talk a lot and get stuff through the media, and agents get stuff through the media. You're gonna see a player shoot up the draft boards for some reason and start to get mocked, and then will fall out of the draft boards. It's this is a week where it gets exciting, but it also at the same time is very hectic, and there's a lot of talking voices out there with it.
Well, and that's part of my concern with specifically Shamar Stewart being on this list, and
Yep.
the fact that they used a top 30 visit on him is he's the guy I do not want. I do not want to see him. Second round, fine, whatever. It makes sense in the second round. But if they are seriously considering him at 10, or even if they trade back a few picks, I'm not going to be happy about that. That is the one guy I want to see that you actually showed some type of production in college. And
Yeah.
I don't care if your coaching staff was not using you properly and that you have all the athletic tools in the chest, that you just couldn't put it all together to get more than 2.5 sacks every single year you played collegiate football. That to me screams there's something wrong here. And I just cannot fathom them working on a project guy like this when it's clear they're working on this 3-year schedule of, hey, we're signing our guys that we need to get the job done, to compete, to get to the playoffs and go after a Super Bowl. And then you go and grab a prospect like that at 10 that is probably not going to be fully up to speed for 3 years. If, we're guesstimating what the egg to crack is for his overall production and potential. It just does not make sense to me. I don't know. I worry about that. I really do, especially after that combine visit,
Yeah.
and the fact that he just lit up all the boards.
Hey,
I'm a little concerned.
yeah, you're drafting them on potential. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the after the draft stuff too. And I know we'll break that down. We'll have some podcasts before and after the draft coming. But last year, we got to hear and see the video of Ian Cunningham telling Ryan Poles, "Do not trade up for Roma Dunze. He's going to be there." And what happened? He was there. So
He was there.
I'm very interested in that stuff. I'm interested to see how the board shakes out for them and who was on the top of their board, because the top player on the board might be gone. So I kind of want to find information out on that and just see what direction they go to. But my best advice is everyone just enjoy it. It's kind of come fast and it's a great 3 days. But yeah, we'll see. And these picks, they will still jury will still be out on them for a long time. So usually you give them 3 years, 2-3 years, unless some of these guys that are going to be bad or some going to be good. So
Right. Yeah. Don't tell Nick that
oh yeah. We will let's tell whoever user Real Deal is on YouTube next Wednesday night. We're doing a draft show. It'll be us in the house. It'll be Usaid and Nick. Come in here and comment on Mike Green, and we'll let Nick address the comments. Open invitation. Open invitation.
Yeah, he said he'd be fine with Mike Green at 10. Apparently all the energy and motor in the world. So I'm curious about that conversation. But we got a lot of coverage coming up here with the Bear Report over the next week. We'll see the Hallis beat covering everything coming to the draft here, as well as, like you mentioned, Wednesday night we're going to be talking, all four of us, a draft preview, what the Bears could and maybe should do, when it comes to when they are on the clock on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with all of their picks. And then on Thursday night, we will be live streaming the NFL draft up to pick 10, recapping what exactly the Bears end up doing, whether it is one of these aforementioned picks that we have discussed here tonight, or they just pull something completely out of left field, maybe trade back and we end up broadcasting the entire first round. Who knows?
Oh man.
It could happen. It could happen. But on top of that, also on Friday night, recapping the picks of the second and third round as well, to see where the Bears end up and the newest prospects to enter Hallis Hall. else. So lots to happen here in the next week and a half with the Bear Report, and we'll be here to break it all down with what happens with Ryan Poles in that front office and Ben Johnson if he gets all his fun offensive toys to bring and help out Caleb Williams and that offense. So that's going to do it here for the Bear Report podcast. For Zach Pearson, I'm Steven Johnson. Thanks for hanging out with us here tonight. We will be back next week with another episode. And again, Wednesday night, our draft preview here with the Bear Report. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Bear Report podcast.